Called meeting to order. All members present except Dr. Guth. Public comment hearing session. All right, discussion workshop items. C1, discussion of projects updates on site security improvements in Margaret White Elementary modernization. Mr. Sanders here. You good?
That's Lois's presentation for tonight. But it's getting me a bunch of error messages.
Can you go back to where you just were? The file store?
Right here?
No, where you were opening it, like it was open the sixth floor, and then the computer? Nah,
On
the
the
computer to the left. Did that?
I just
And then yeah, go back to E, yeah, just where you just were. And then right click that. And then properties.
Hmm?
It's on it. When I start talking, what I'm going to do is take the USB drive and take it to my desktop and see if I can download it to my computer and email it to myself.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so I'll give it just start with an update on our site security project. So the contractor is substantially complete at all 4 sites. We've visited each one of the sites to do a punch list, which means that that's a list that you comprise so that the contractor can complete those items to be 100% complete. So there's various cosmetic items that they need to get cleaned up. But at 3 of the sites, we're going to be raising the height of the railing to 8 inches below, so that there's 8 inches in between the top of the rail and the suspended ceiling. And then we'll be installing a glass panel at the open areas, and that glass panel will have an aluminum, 2-inch aluminum frame at the bottom that's 6 inches above the counter. So you can still slide the paper back and forth, or any documents back and forth in that 6-inch opening, okay? The major item still to complete is just all the training on the site security portion of the project. So currently all of the security hardware is functioning, all of the opening and closing devices function, but the district does not have any of the badging or fobs that allow you to present your credentials at the readers and to open and close those doors. So you do? Oh, you do. Oh, what's that? Okay, all right. So so those haven't, the training has not been done where it's been distributed out to each of the sites. Yeah, okay. They're going to be coordinating that in the next week, so that each one of the sites has their badging and credentials, and they can distribute out to all of the administration and teachers. Okay. The Margaret White Modernization Project. I think there was some discussion and clarification that we need to provide as discussion and clarification that we need to provide as far as the process that is required to get in line and to receive state funding. Okay, so with that project, I'll back up a little bit. You're eligible for approximately $8.3 million at that site for modernization. In order to secure those funds, you need state approval. And in order to get the state approval, you need approval from 3 agencies, okay? So the first 2 agencies, which are like the permitting agencies, those are considered the Division of the State Architect, or what we refer to as DSA. And then you also have California Department of Education, or what we refer to as CDE. So we need approval from both DSA and CDE. If you never obtain DSA and CDE approval, then you're guaranteed that you can never submit an application to the state to secure those funds, and you can never, therefore you'd never realize those funds. When you do the project under what's called financial hardship, you would be eligible for 100% funding from the state. So in lieu of a 60-40 match, where 60% would come from the state and 40% come from the district, you would receive 100% funding from the state under the financial hardship program. Now, it takes longer to be funded for those, but the sooner you get in line, the sooner that you will receive money when there is money available. Okay. So, any questions on that process?
On that, Jimmy, you had mentioned, we know we're going to have to go through DSA. What was the cost on that, or an estimate of the cost that we're looking at on that?
Yeah. So, to get that DSA approved, there are several fees that need to be paid. For example, there's the DSA plan review fee. There's the California Department of Education review fee. And then, of course, there's all the architectural and engineering fees that have to be done in order to produce those documents to get approval. The DSA fees and the California Department of Ed fees, those are estimated to be about $140,000 total. And then as far as the architecture and engineering fees, we're offering to work with the district so that we can meet whatever budget constraints you have, so that we can do that work up front for you, and then receive those fees or any of the unpaid fees when you receive your funds. Excuse me?
Like a layaway plan.
There you go. Yep, basically, yeah. And the reason that we're willing to do that is just for the simple fact that we know that once you get in line, it's just a matter of time. And sometimes that might take, 2 years. We hope it would take 2 to 3 years, but it could take 5 years. But once you get in line, that day will come when you'll receive those funds. So we would propose that we would work with your team and to see, what would be amenable to the district as far as how much of that we need to push to the back end and how much can be paid up front.
So at the time we would do the DSA application and the CDE application or review, is it necessary at that point that we have depleted the bond? Because in order for this to be financial hardship, we have to have no money left, correct? So
No.
is it necessary to have that done before you start the process, or can it be done when we're funded? What's the?
Yeah. So that's a really good question. And the answer is that when you submit your application, that's when you it's determined that you're eligible for financial hardship.
Okay.
And one of those, when I say your application, that's not your application to DSA or CDE, it's your application to OPSC.
Sure, okay.
So it's going to take, several months to get those drawings DSA approved. And so then at that point, because the approval is good for 4 years, then you can strategize as to when you submit that application. Now, I would point out that all that's required is that you have your funds encumbered. So, for example, if you still have bond funds, but they've been encumbered for a certain project, well, then you can still have funds. They just have to be under contract.
Can I ask a clarifying question? I don't know if it's appropriate. We've done Series A, Series B. There is still potentially a Series C out there.
Mhm.
Could we not, let's just say it worked out that we didn't tap Series C, would they expect us to tap Series C? Or if we hadn't tapped that, you get what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. So it's my understanding that, and we would again, I just want to clarify that with those types of questions, I can tell you what my experience has been, but we need to get Ilana Cunningham with Jack Schrader and Associates just to confirm that. But I've heard that same question asked many times, and I've seen districts respond to it, and that is that if you have unsold bond funds, that they can tap those funds. So those Series C, you would need to have those somehow encumbered, or even those funds set aside by a board, some type of board action resolution, so that they couldn't be tapped for the modernization project.
We're gonna be pretty close anyways, by the time we do the Twin Palms and the administration, right? We should be, okay.
Yeah. Okay, any questions on that?
That's good. Questions, Sunny? Any?
Okay. So just as a follow-up, what would be the next steps, or what would you want to do with Margaret White modernization?
Of the board in terms of if you want to proceed with the planning for submitting to get in line for the modernization project, or if you want to continue to contemplate that as a possibility.
I think we need to move forward. The Apple Glue, when I was involved in that, took us 7 years from from the first time we found out to hardship. It took 7 years and that project. But I think we need to get on board now, because I think there's a lot of school districts and the funding in the state is uncertain. I think we need to move pretty quick.
To me, it seems like a pretty good return on investment to spend $140,000 and with the potential of $8.3 million. I am a little apprehensive because of the state of the economy right now. that's probably my only holdback on doing it. But I don't know what anybody else feels.
I had a conversation earlier today, and I just want to interject some information on the state of the economy and what happens with state bonds and level 1, 2, and 3 developers fees. Melton, just for the record, are you, as far as developer fees go, or do you know if you're level 1 or 2? Okay. Yeah. Okay. So there's level 1, 2, and 3 developer fees. Level 3 means that there is no funding mechanism at the state and district level for the state and the local districts to participate in the funding of schools. So right now, the way the program's set up is that a developer is supposed to put up 50% of the cost of a new school, and the state and local bonds put up the other 50%. Now, it doesn't actually work out that way. Usually what happens is the state and the local bonds end up putting in a little bit more, just because the cost of the schools costs more than what's estimated when the program's put together. But those developers, when they put their business model together all up and down the state of California for new housing and apartment tracts, that's all done on the assumption that the state and that the local school districts are going to participate in funding 50% of those schools, and that the developer fee funds the other 50%. Level 1, okay. So you're at level 1 now. If you ever go to what's called level 3, that means that the local districts and the state do not participate, that the developers have to provide 100% of the cost of that new school. And I'm not aware of that happening. And the reason that it doesn't happen is because it would cost the developers billions and billions of dollars all over the state of California. And so there's a huge stake involved when we talk about when the next bond is going to be. Because if the construction industry is able to show that the state's out of money, there's no plan for any new money to fund these new schools, well, then all of the school districts statewide go to what's called level 3, which means, again, that developers pay 100% of the cost of those schools. And so to think that there's not going to be another state bond, or that another state bond won't pass, there would have to be a complete new funding mechanisms for the way schools are funded because of the dollar amount on the line for the construction industry throughout the whole state of California. So it's very important that there is a state bond, that local school districts, not just Blythe. Of course, Blythe you're probably going to stay at a level 1, and you're probably going to have, very, very slow growth over the next 20 years. But what happens, you can imagine, as some of these, the construction industry booms. It peaks and it goes up and down, right? Well, these developers rely on those state funds in order to fund the schools, and if it's not there, that many times would kill the housing market throughout the state of California. So I guess what I'm saying is that the likelihood that there won't be another state bond very soon, because of all that's on the line for the development statewide, is highly unlikely.
Pretty much the lobbying power of the construction industry ensures that there's going to be another state bond at some point.
That's exactly right.
Okay.
Yes, yeah, and that it will be successful, right? If they if it's not passed this time, there was a lot of positioning and negotiating because of different bond measures that they wanted to pass last time and then this time, and so they made some deals about who was going to go first and who was going to go second, and so I'm not up on the latest of all that, but we know that it's just a matter of time until there's another statewide bond put on the ballot, and that everybody gets behind it, and that it passes. So, yeah.
I had a question on,
Yeah.
the school is probably one of our newest schools, except for Appleby. it's 27 years old. It was built in 93, completed in 93. Is there a difference between like the high school with modernization, but the high school was done in the 1960s, and it was almost covered only 50% of it because of the age of it? Is there going to be some kind of equation that says you can't do it because the school is only 27 years old?
Yeah, so you're eligible for the modernization when it's 25 years old, and so whatever was built with that original campus, that's what's eligible. So you could take all of that money and you could spend it on one building, or you can take it, of course, and distribute it out and spend it on all the buildings. You're eligible for that money, and it's required that you spend it at that site. And of course, there's other requirements too, like ADA and fire and life safety. You know, you have to update it to all those new codes and standards, which if you don't do with modernization funds, well, at some point you're going to have to do with your own general fund money, right? You have to meet all those code requirements, but there's enough money even under the financial hardship programs that you can do some other more cosmetic and comfort type improvements to the campus. And as you pointed out, that's a relatively new school. So the nice thing about that is you're not going to have to spend all of your money on infrastructure, right? When you have a really old campus, a really old site, and you modernize, well, you'll end up spending your entire amount on things like underground electrical service, underground plumbing and water service, things that when you're done, the community is never going to see. They've got to be done, because if not, your campus doesn't function. But because it's a relatively new site, there's going to be you don't need to go to that extent as far as your infrastructure goes, and you can spend it on some things that are more cosmetic, that your community is going to be able to see and appreciate more than, say, a new underground plumbing line. Okay.
Forward with this, what is an average timeline on a modernization of this scale?
As far as the construction goes?
Yeah.
So, modernization of that scale, I just pointed, you can't get that done over a summer, right? Yeah, that would be a very aggressive schedule to get that done over a summer. So typically what happens is you get that done over a school year, and you would get your administration and your multi-purpose, you would get those done over the summer, and then once school starts, you'll drop back and catch like a classroom wing at a time. And so there'll be a phasing plan where you'll need to set, let's say 8 relocatable classrooms, and you'll phase in and out of the classroom wings. Okay?
It doesn't require that you're shutting down school or moving all the children to
Oh,
another
no.
location. You
No.
just make it work.
Yeah, that's just that's pretty much standard procedure with the modernization of a campus. You get your get your summer work done, everything that you need for that campus to function, your administration, your multi-purpose, and then that way you concentrate all your manpower, your efforts on those facilities in the summer, and then you drop back during the school year and knock out a classroom wing. Usually the first one would take 10 weeks, and then after that you could knock them out in, say, 6 to 8 weeks. Right. Usually what happens though is the construction at that point becomes the easy part. It's the moving in and out of those wings that's difficult because of the disruption. And so sometimes you'll wait until, say, your fall break or your winter break or your spring break to move in and out. So that kind of delays the project a little bit, but there's less impact to the to the learning environment. So once we get there, we can strategize as to what works best for you.
So she was saying, like, for the direction of the board, I'm with Sonny, because, like, if we can get them to start doing work and lock them in on today's prices, because the longer we wait, inflation gonna take its toll. That's just common sense.
I'm a little worried only because just like the security thing that we're doing, now we're gonna end up paying more money to fix what should have been already done. then we're gonna go on to Twin Palms, do that, and then something else is gonna come up, and we're gonna have to pay for that as well. So I'm a little worried about spending this money up front and waiting for such a long time to see, you know, the outcome of it, only because it's gonna take a while.
I thought he said that they would do it. They would do the work and up front.
The fees to be paid.
140,000 would still be, we would put that bill now.
Yeah. Mhm. You would still be, you need to pay those state fees. What we were proposing is that we could defer our invoices for all the work that we're gonna do. Yeah.
And what I'm saying is, you would do the work now. Like-
That's correct, yes.
Right.
Yes, that's correct, yeah.
If we hold off and you do it later, it potentially could be a little bit, well, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah, that's that's covered in that $140,000 fee, yeah. Yeah, if you wait to do the planning in, say, let's say you wait and did the planning in 4 years, well, if it was gonna take 4 years from the time that you submitted your OPSC application to actually get funded, well, now you're 8 years out instead of 4 years out, yeah. Right.
And a
So
33-year-old
so
building.
what triggers, this is a really important piece of it to understand, is the applications are processed in the date order received. So as soon as you submit your application to OPSC, you get in line, and you can get online and see, you know, where you're at in that line, and you know, they never take one project because you know, somebody's friends with a senator or a congressman or something and move it in front of another one. You have your place in line, and when that project comes up to be funded, you're funded. And so if you don't get in line, well, you'll never get any money. And if you get in line and you're project 100, well, you're going to be funded right after project 99 and before project 101, and that's the way it works.
And if, when you're in line, your DSA review expires, what happens?
So if you're in line and the DSA review expires, then you can go back and get that extended so that basically you lose your place in line there. Yeah. No, so that you do not. So that you do not.
And
yeah.
is that extension, is it at the same level, the 140,000, or is it not quite the process, it's just an extension fee?
Yeah, so what they do is, once you're in line and I've seen this happen before, even when you time out, DSA will work with you because, you know, the district comes back and they say, hey, it's not our fault that you took, you know, this other state agency has taken 4 years to fund our project, and now we've timed out, so can you work with us? And I've seen DSA, just in my experience, on 2 occasions where they work with the districts to, so that they don't have to go through that whole process again.
That's good to know.
If we go forward with this project, what I'd like to see is what's actually going to be done with the site. You know that all the code violations or the codes that are outdated needs to be brought up with the fire system. But that's going to have a cost, but it's not going to be probably $8 million. So I'd like to get together with the district personnel and you and say, okay, this is what we're going to do for this project. Because there's things that, you know, like the roofing that's going to be almost 30 years old now. You know, the asphalt is terrible in shape now. You know, things like that is, if we had a list to see what was going to be, you know, put to DSA so that we can make sure that we don't spend our money foolishly and we end up with the same looking school that we see right now.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd like to see a list of things that is possible to do during this modernization project.
Yes, so point well taken. So typically what happens is we would come to the district with what we call a shopping list. And, you know, we can go over there and walk the site with your maintenance personnel and principals, and I'm confident that we could identify projects that far exceed your 8.3 million, right? And so we would come back with a shopping list of items that we're proposing to include in there, and even some additional items. Like, for example, the replacement of the roofs would be, you know, either for sure item included in the project, or it could be an alternate, the replacement of the AC paving. You know, those items are, can and cannot be included in a typical modernization project, because sometimes you'll take care of those with deferred maintenance funds. Other times you want to include those in a modernization project. So we'll come back with a full shopping list that you can select and be involved in exactly what that scope of work would be.
And that way you can kind of estimate the cost and see where we're at.
Yeah, that shopping list will say, you know, roof replacement for estimated cost, AC paving replacement, estimated cost, fire alarm upgrade, estimated cost. That way you can see exactly where your money's going, and if the board wants to, you can be involved in selecting those projects that you think are most important.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
So do we, what,
But did you want to also review, did you have other?
oh, yes, so for Margaret White, do we come back then with that scope of work in that list?
Yeah, I think that probably if we possibly put it on as a discussion or as an action item for next board to, so that we have a firmer direction from the board on moving forward or not on with this project in mind for Margaret White. Okay.
I would think though once we're at that point where you've got a shopping list or we get a cost, we need to be moving forward, because then we've incurred your cost. We've incurred the architecture fees and the engineering fees. So I would think the decision needs to be made regardless of whether you've done the list and went through, because we're gonna incur those fees regardless of whether.
I think that's going to be part of kind of bringing it to board, next board. We can bring it to next board as a discussion to discuss it further, and then after that discussion as an action item.
And if you can put everything, the cost, what you just said for the fees for all the agencies, plus the deferred payment to the architect, you know, that kind of thing would be helpful.
Okay.
Okay, sounds good. Okay. All right, we'd also like to give an update on the proposed Twin Palms High School and District Office Modernization and Addition Project. So the last board update that we did, there were several of the buildings where the design and layout was in progress. So we've completed a proposed design, and we'd like to show that on a PowerPoint tonight. And the hard copy is that you have in front of you is a copy of the PowerPoint that I'm presenting here today. So in summary, no plans or no changes to this existing Twin Palms High School site. It's the same one that you've seen on your last two presentations. This next plan shows the division between the district office buildings, the Palo Verde High School CTE labs, and the Twin Palms modernization project. So just to remind you about some of the features of the Twin Palms modernization, we have our administration building, we have our classroom building, and then we have our 2 classrooms and our food service building here. That's all part of the Twin Palms High School. We were also adding a parking lot and a designated loading and unloading zone. Then as far as the district office goes, we have these 2 buildings, and we were also removing the existing structure and expanding that parking lot. So we pick up about 34 more parking spaces by removing that residential structure and expanding the parking lot to the north. Okay. So, Twin Palms High School administration. So this facility has been redesigned to include a janitor room to support the Twin Palms High School. We have two unisex toilet rooms, a data, a copy room, 2 offices, so we call it Office 1 and 2, the principal's office, and a conference room. One of the changes that was made from last time is we wanted an entrance off of the north side of the campus. So if we go back to our site plan, that's this entrance here. So that would be your public entrance to come into the school off that loading and unloading zone. So that's this entrance here. And then we have a secure public entrance area. So you come in, you badge in, and then you have access to the campus through this door. This is our student entrance. Okay, so note that one of the problems we had previously is that our students, when they came in from their student entrance, were walking into and through the reception area, right? It was tough to get all these spaces included, and so we've solved this by putting a central reception area that can serve both the public entrance and the student entrance. It's big enough to have 2 people there, but it also can be served by just 1 person. So it's our understanding that sometimes there is a second person in that area, but the majority of the time there's just 1 person. Okay? We also have, the intent here is that when students come in and they're waiting to see the principal or one of the counselors, that they can wait in the conference room, or there's some space here and here where we can separate students and allow them to sit and wait to see the principal. Okay? So we think that this plan provides that secure entrance both for the public and a student entrance, and it gives you all of the components that are needed for that administration building, including the janitor room there that's going to service Twin Palms. Okay. Any questions on that?
I think the reception area looks great. I was there when the secretary was talking about how she wanted it to look, and it's great the way the students have their separate entrance, and she can kind of maintain both areas. Yeah,
and it was, in order to, of course, whenever you're working within the confines of an existing structure, in order to fit everything in there, we're really pleased with the way it lays out. The conference room got a little bit smaller from our previous plan, but I think that if you needed a bigger conference room where you've got some other space there on campus that or adjacent that can be used. So yeah, we're very pleased with the way it all works out. Okay, the next building is, we refer to it as Building 2, which is your classroom, your student service, or your student center, and your boys and girls restrooms. So right now, the way the site is laid out, there are no restrooms for the Twin Palms High School. So we're taking one of the classroom buildings and we're adding the boys and girls restroom. Okay? But I'd point out there's no changes to this floor plan from what was presented last time. Those are standard size classrooms. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then last we have the Building 3, which is classrooms and food service. So the left half or the west half includes 4 CTE classrooms, and then the right half or the east half includes a lecture hall and a food service. So this portion is Twin Palms, and the west portion is Palo Verde High School CTE labs. And again, I point out there's no changes to this floor plan from what was presented last time. So this is the district administration modernization. There's a few components that we want to point out here. As we've discussed earlier, we have an expanded district and visitor parking lot, but we have also renovated this pavilion area to make a very nice welcome center leading up to the district administration center. So this area becomes an indoor-outdoor area for use by both the district offices for the public and for your Building 6, which is your board meeting room. Okay?
And really the thought was to open that up in an inviting fashion for families so that it's more like the district office is a welcome center. We welcome families to come to get support for their student learning, and have it as a space where when people do come to the district office and if they're filling out paperwork or other things, sometimes they could sit inside or outside to get support from district personnel. And it would flow into where the boardroom would be.
What is the square footage of that area?
So the existing pavilion, that total area totals about 2,000 square feet, roughly. So it's about the sizes of 2 classrooms. So it's a large shaded area. The shades are very dated, so part of the modernization project would be to, renovate that and just give it a facelift. And this slide here shows, this is that expanded parking lot here, and here's the existing pavilion. So we would basically do a hardscape and landscaping project so that coming off of that parking lot, there'll be two connecting sidewalks here. That's that large tree that's there now that we would protect and save. And then we'd have this sidewalk coming into your new proposed welcome center at the west end of the district office there.
What are your thoughts about the expanded parking lot?
Well, I think that's great. I think we'll benefit from it. I think too, if we get to the point where we have community events, whether they're at Twin Palms, whether at the district administration or even at the CTE facility, having that overflow parking will be really nice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right.
And this landscape and welcome center, pavilion center is really going to be what creates I think that welcome feeling that you're wanting to create there. It's we don't want it to feel sterile or institutional, and so by taking some of the funds that we were going to put into this new construction here and transferring them here, not only do we save money, but we also create a very welcome environment for your board meetings and for the public coming into the district office. Okay, the next slide shows Building 5. That's your Palo Verde High School CTE lab. No changes to that floor plan from what was presented last time. This is Building 6, the administration support. So that's your proposed boardroom, demonstration classrooms, and men's and women's restrooms. No change to that floor plan from what was presented last time. And this is your proposed district administration floor plan, redesign in progress. So this was the old floor plan. I threw it in there just for reference. So this entire area, the conference room, all the changes to this corridor here and the welcome center, that's all been deleted for cost-saving purposes. Okay? And then this is the proposed new layout. So as you can see, we make no changes to the south end of the building. That all remains the same other than to enclose that existing corridor. And then we put in a small reception welcome center at the west end of the building. All of your student services, superintendent services, business department, and general offices, that all remains the same. Essentially what we did here is we took out that large conference room and that large welcome center, and we located it here on the west end. It's about 20% of the square footage of that old space that we were going to add, and it supports that new pavilion, hardscape, and landscape area that we're proposing.
look at the district administration building to kind of replicate what our needs were, and everybody would fit in there. So it was really on par with what the needs are in the district.
Okay, this next slide shows an elevation of what that modernized pavilion space would look like. So currently, what dates it is that curved roof structure. So we're proposing to take that out and put on a more modern, renovated look in order to create that nice landscape and pavilion area. Okay. Okay, and then so that concludes our presentation tonight. There are no changes to the CTE facility or to any of the other slides as far as the sports field lighting project goes. So, any questions?
Oh, I think you answered all the questions I had. That looks great, the new drawings of the Twin Palms and meeting all the needs of the district and Twin Palms and CTE. It's kind of exciting that we were able to get that all into the one area and drastically reduce our cost.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's I like the way it's come together, and I think you're going to be really happy with it.
Now we just gotta see what the actual cost would be. How do you propose to do that once we once we say this is what we want? Is it possible to get an estimated cost that's pretty close?
Yes, absolutely. And I just wanted to make sure that everybody was in agreement that is the revised scope. And so if that's the case, then we'll go to work on putting those cost estimates together.
So we're good with having Jimmy move forward with that.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
Okay, well, thank you very much. Any more questions or direction? Or?
I think we're good. No, thank you for your time, Jimmy, and for driving out here and providing us with the hard copies and everything.
You bet. Thank you very much.
All right. Okay, we're going to adjourn to closed session. lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Ready? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty.
And standing for a moment of silence. There was no action taken in closed session. Call for an adoption of the agenda.
So moved.
All in favor? Any opposed? All right, programs and presentations. Presentation 2020-2021 45-day budget revision.
I emailed that to you, right? God, it's just been that kind of day. No, I'm sorry, there should be a PowerPoint.
I'm gonna switch it around.
Can we go Lois first?
We'll swap
and
it
I'll
around.
email?
Okay,
I'm
we're
sorry.
gonna swap it around. We're gonna start with our pvusd learning continuity and attendance plan.
Good evening, Board, Cabinet, Superintendent, audience, watching us. This is a draft of the Learning Continuity and Attendance Plan I am presenting tonight because I'm asking for input and feedback from our stakeholders. Is it on? It would help if I turned it on. Stakeholder engagement so far, I have DLAC, the District English Language Advisory Committee, reviewed the draft of the plan so far. The District Parent Advisory Committee reviewed it also. We've had stakeholder task force meetings all summer and have talked about sections of it there. And I'm still in the process of gathering more stakeholder engagement. One of the things I'm going to be doing is sending a survey to some of our students to get some input from them.
And just to confirm, just for everybody's benefit, especially everybody watching, this is really our COVID funding version of the LCAP.
Thank you for saying that. I should have brought that up. The district is not to do an LCAP this year because we couldn't get stakeholder engagement because of COVID. So we're doing the learning plan, learning continuity and attendance plan, and it's how is our district responding to COVID and how are we ensuring stakeholder engagement. So thank you. In-person instructional offerings, we're using the triad model. Once we're able to go to in-person instruction, we have the options of traditional, hybrid, 2 days on campus, 3 days at home for teacher-led distance learning, and 100% teacher-led distance learning. That's in our plan that we've written. We are using the state and district-adopted curricula. We are also using some supplemental programs, Acellus and Renaissance Learning, among a few. And our classes have been prepared for social distancing. For distance learning, which is what we're doing right now, 100% teacher-led distance learning, we are still using our adopted curricula. We also are doing the online learning programs through distance learning. We are giving professional development to our teachers and other instructional staff because this is a whole new game for us. We all have so much to learn. We are asking for daily live interaction between teachers and students. We have synchronous and asynchronous learning times. There are synchronous times when the teacher is online, here I am, come be in this meeting with me. And there is asynchronous times. Here's your assignment, work on it, complete it. If you need me, I'm around. We're using our core standards, and we're also looking at social emotional learning for our students. Every student is able to check out a Chromebook, and we have hotspots on the way for families who have connectivity issues, and it's like almost here. We're like this close. Pupil learning loss. Our students were not in school March through June, and now they're learning from home. I completely believe the best place for a student to be is in the classroom with a teacher. But we know that there will be some learning loss, so we are still using our core curricula and our supplemental programs. We're using STAR 360 assessments, STAR Math, and STAR Language Arts, and that gives us some data to see which students are really struggling so we can focus on those students. We're trying some corrective reading at 4th grade, 8th grade, and 9th grades, and that's for students who are 2 years or more below in reading. We're using the multi-tiered systems of support. We're doing capacity building for our teachers and other staff on academics and behavior support. And we're redeploying our classroom paraprofessionals to provide additional student learning support. So our parapros are running some small group tutoring groups during the school day. We also are worried about the mental health and social-emotional aspects of our students as well as our staff. We have counselors. We have a behavior specialist who's a TOSA. We now have a coordinator of student services, and we're working on a multi-tiered system of support. Tier 1 is available for all students. It aligns counseling and intervention services. Tier 2 is for some students. It involves data collection and assessment of the programs, and there's progress monitoring as people work with the Tier 2, some groups, some students. And Tier 3 is for a very few students. These are high levels of support for students in crisis or in need of intense support. Pupil engagement and outreach, like I mentioned before, teachers connect daily with their students. Teachers and the dropout prevention specialists or counselors at some of the schools attempt to contact students who miss a day of learning. If a student misses 3 days of learning, the team works collaboratively with the family to bring the student back into the learning process. And that's looking for the barriers. What is it that's keeping that student from learning? And being able to connect, being able to be part of it. And for those few students still not engaged in learning, the district office will provide further support. School nutrition is another section of the learning continuity and attendance plan, and we have 3 different parts for our distance learning for school nutrition. Nutrition services is providing grab and go meals for our enrolled students. Meals are delivered during the bus routes, and they're also served out of one of the school cafeterias as a grab and go, again, curbside. For the hybrid model, once students come back to school part-time, when they're at school, they'll be able to eat the lunch at school, and when they're on their teacher-led distance learning days, they'll still have grab-and-go meals delivered along the bus routes. And once we get back to the traditional model, meals will be at school, so we wouldn't need to be delivering food then. Increased or improved services is some of the language we've heard from the LCAP, and that little piece folds over here, but it's not several pages long like it was in the LCAP. It's focused on foster youth, English learners, and low-income students, and I usually throw homeless in there also. We're monitoring these students with the focus on these student groups. We're monitoring all of our students. We want all of our students to do well, but we're really focusing on English learners, foster youth, low-income students, and homeless as we're doing it. We believe that this plan will effectively meet the needs of all of these students. As I mentioned earlier, we are asking for input. The plan is attached to the board agenda tonight. You can email contact us at pvusd.us. You can email me specifically L. Schaefer, L-S-H-A-F-F-E-R, 2 F's, no C, at pvusd.us. You can call the district office and be transferred to my voicemail or leave a message through Yvette at the reception desk to give us ideas. We really do want the input on this. Any questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.
That sounds great.
Thanks.
All right, our 2020-2021 45-day budget revision.
Good evening, Board, Superintendent, and community. While Janine loads the presentation, I'll just kind of explain briefly how it's different from the last time I was here. So my apologies for the initial confusion. I just forgot to email it to her earlier. Tonight's presentation is going to be pretty short and sweet. I'm just going to focus on the new information that we had since the last time that I updated the board. I think it was late July. What I have is I have better numbers for the learning loss mitigation funds and the ESSER funds. And we've, based on having that information, we were able to forecast out the cash flow, so I want to show a little bit of that. But in terms of major changes since the last time I spoke to you guys, not a whole lot's changed. Just the pictures become a little bit clearer. Thank you, Janine. Shit, they're on. Should come on. I see them both. One's working hard. There it goes. I see it. I see it. It's coming. Okay. So tonight's objective is to discuss information changes since adopted budget, communicate ongoing challenges and concerns, review the CARES Act, ESSER's funds purpose and use, discuss the importance and implications of cash flow to the current environment, and then take any questions, should there be any at the end. So this is, you've seen this before. This is the multi-year projection spreadsheet that I brought to you guys at adopted budget, and at which time in the far bottom right-hand corner in the little red box, you could see that our ending fund balance was projected to be negative. At this time, we were projected to have significant cuts to the LCFF revenues, and based on the information at that time, this was the picture. Came to you guys last month with the 45-day revision and presented this slide, and the projection is a little bit better. Not only do we make our 3% reserve, but we had an ending fund balance of, well, there's 6 million, just north of 6 million in the ending fund balance, but we had 3.2 in the assigned. So that it presented a better picture for us. But as I stated last time, we traded ending fund balance for some cash flow pressures. And then this is the most recent data that I have in terms of a multi-year projection, and it hasn't changed a whole lot from when I came in July. So in July, we had just north of it was $6.06 million ending fund balance, and this time it's 6.2. So the ending fund balance is projected to grow a little bit. And so in terms of looking at the 3-year forecast, I think we're going to be okay. It's a lot better than what I presented to you guys at the June 30 presentation. The other thing that's happened since the last time I came is we got tighter numbers for the CARES Act and the ESSER funding, so I wanted to share this with you. So there are 5 resources that the district's utilizing for the CARES Act, ESSER, basically anything that is COVID related. So CARES Act ESSER funds we hold in resource 3210, and we budgeted $849,506. Those funds last until September 30, 2022. Of these funds here, we would want to spend those last, or at least near last. The second column there is resource 7338. That's $48,755. We actually received that money last budget year. We have some carryover. We paid for our essential workers that we honored for coming in when everything was super, super tough. We paid for that stipend out of that pot. So we'll probably have about half of that now, maybe 25,000 or so, give or take. The GEAR funds are specifically tailored towards students with disabilities. The GEAR funds don't expire until September 30, 2022. And we received about 174,000 in GEAR funds. Okay, let me back up real quick. The first 2 columns, the CARES Act ESSER and the SB 117, we have more flexibility with those funds than we do with the last 3 columns. The last 3 are specifically to address learning loss mitigation, whereas the other ones we can do kind of a wider activity, custodial things and other operational kinds of functions. The second to the last column is CARES Act, Learning Loss Mitigation Funds. That's a federal fund. It's based on our supplemental and concentration allocation. We hold those funds in resource 3220, and our projected budget for that is $2,563,434. And these are the funds that we want to spend first. And then lastly, we have CARES Act, Learning Loss Mitigation. These are state funds. They are also expiring December 30, 2020. We have $263,569 in that pot. So it's the last 2 that we want to start spending first and then work our way over. And I don't believe there's an expiration with the SB 117 funds. I think we can keep carrying that until we spend it down. Proposed uses, we have additional tutoring options or technical support. We're paying teachers to support students in that way. We've done some professional development, Zoom training, things like that. We purchased Zoom, and we have other, I think, add-ons and things for add-ons that we've bought over the last few months that will help students and teachers access their learning. We have internet access that we can use these funds for, hotspots. We are in early discussions of the possibility of an LTE tower, but basically anything that brings the internet to the student's house. We can do technology equipment, webcams. We've already purchased Chromebooks. We've purchased headset, any related devices to help students access the learning. We have intervention materials to to address learning loss mitigation, Renaissance. We used N2Y, Unique Learning, just to name a few. We did the stipends for essential workers from March through June. And then lastly, custodial supplies and protective equipment to promote a safe and healthy environment. So these are just some of the ways that we can use the funds. Lois, I think, touched on some of the other things that we've been working on over the past 3 or 4 months. But anyway, I just wanted to present clearly what we've received for the CARES Act and ESSER and kind of where we're at with it. It's quite a bit of money to spend, particularly the Resource 3220. The $2.5 million is a lot to do inside of 6 or 7 months. Ending fund balance projections haven't changed a whole lot since I came in July, late July. We are projected to end this year with $8.3 million, 21-22 with $8.2 million, and 22-23 with $6.2 million. Leaving in other assignments about $5 million in the first year, $5.4 million in the second year, and $3 million in the last, 3.4. I feel okay about that. And then I also spoke to you guys last time about the trade-off. So I brought good news in July that we weren't going to get the cuts to LCFF that we were told would happen in June. What we traded instead for is what are called cash deferrals, meaning that the state will not send us certain payments on time, and that's kind of the trade-off there. So we're getting the budget that we were more or less promised, we're just not getting it on time. And so what's going to happen to us in this February, they will not send our state aid payment, which can be anywhere around $2 million, and they're going to send us that payment in November. In March, they will not send us that payment, which is about $2 million. They will send it in October. April, you can kind of see where it's going. They won't send us April. We're going to get it in September. We're going to get May and August, and then we actually get June the very next month in July. So we were able to make some cash flow projections since the July 23rd or 24th meeting. I don't remember when we were here. And for right now, we are projected to end the year with about $888,000, almost $889,000 left in cash. So we'll make it. It's tight. It's about as tight as I've seen it since I've been here. And we're going to continue to watch it and work with our COE to determine whether we would qualify for the transpool. And as we go further into the fall and winter, I'll be back at I think first interim would be a good time for us to decide whether we want to go and join that transpool or not. And it may be that we don't qualify. I've never gone through the process, so I still have some kind of learning to do to see how we qualify for it, but that's kind of where we're at. So I don't project that we will run out of cash. We're going to get, like I said, lower than I've seen it. And then, of course, if certain shocks or things happen to us, it can affect that estimate there. And that concludes the 40-day or 45-day budget revision. Any questions or comments?
On the ADA, the daily attendance, I know it's gone down somewhat, but has it affected how much money we're getting?
So we're fortunate this year to be in what's called a hold harmless year. In other words, they're funding us off of the last year's P2. So no matter how bad it gets for us this year, the funding will still be based on last year, so we can absorb some of that shock. Now, going into the following year, if we find out we've lost 200-300 students, we're going to have to make some adjustments to offset that loss of income. But for right now, the funding for this year should hold steady next year, irregardless of what happens to our enrollment. Now, we were looking at data the other day, and I think Lois is in a better position to comment on this, but we weren't down too far, right? Enrollment, I think we were down 40, 50 kids or so.
Yeah, so.
Oh, I don't want to steal your thunder.
No, no. Overall, this time last year, we're down 60 students, but we actually have, we're up on secondary students.
Well, and being down 60 isn't really that bad, because I typically project that we would lose more. So what I think might have happened to save us maybe the private school closing, we I'm sure grabbed some of those students. So the decline in enrollment wasn't as bad as I've seen it in previous years. So that was encouraging. And the challenge, in the next year, especially if we stay this way, is, making sure we get as much attendance as we can in this new world. So that's, going to be on the teachers making those phone calls, dropout prevention. I mean, the offices still play a huge role in all of this, but for this year, we'll be fine as far as that goes.
So paying off the debt really
Saved us. It really did. And I don't see us getting, we certainly wouldn't have made it through the year without the trans, for sure. And I don't even know, because now you would have added another $3 million worth of debt payments over the course of the 3 years. I mean, that's going to erode the fund balance. So yeah, it was to me, it was the right move, and it just saved us from, heading off a cliff.
That we're going to need the trans?
It's,
you're not sure?
I'm not sure. It's iffy. So I'm projecting close to 900,000 left at June 30, but I don't know, and I don't know the criteria. I don't know how close we have to get to the red line to qualify. Do we have to go over the red line? So those are things I'll be learning probably over the next 6 weeks or so, and I expect the next time I come back, I'll have better answers about what that process looks like.
Questions? No? Thank you, Milton.
Thank you.
Great. Our hearing session. This is an opportunity for community members to address the board on agenda and non-agenda items. This is a letter that came in, attention Tracy Kern, attention Milton Sanchez. Please allow me to directly address my concern regarding the distance education for my first grade grandchild. I will not identify the student or school, so retaliation may be avoided. After watching and hearing both my grandchild and my daughter attempt to connect and utilize the online live curriculum and only have to have them both frustrated, angry, and on the verge of a meltdown, I must complain that this is unacceptable. Several issues are evident. First, the technology available in Blythe is wholly inadequate for the volume of users. This is not the district's problem, but must be acknowledged before a solution can move forward. Second, bless the teachers, but it is apparent to me that although the teachers are dedicated, well-meaning educators, they have received inadequate training in distance learning methods for students, especially those under 12. This flaw lies directly at the feet of the district. Third, the idea that instruction is mandated during certain hours when many parents are essential workers and therefore not available to assist their child, an alternative option must be found. It truly hurts my heart to think the school districts are more concerned with attendance for funding than they are with a truly enriching educational experience. I pray I'm wrong, but antecedent evidence says otherwise. My prayers and wishes are with you during this trying time, but perhaps a full reboot at a later date is the answer. Respectfully, Patrick Phillips. Public comment for August 18th, 2020 board meeting. Good evening. I hope everyone is well and staying safe. This is Juan P. Ramirez, Partnership Specialist with the U.S. Census Bureau. Thank you for allowing me to give some updates regarding the 2020 census at tonight's school board meeting. I especially want to thank Mrs. Kern, Mr. Sanchez, and the school board, and Mr. Jesse Gutierrez for working with the U.S. Census and offering their continued support as we try to get accurate count of Blythe residents. As of today, Blythe's 2020 census self-response rate is at 48.7%. The goal is to have 100% response so that Blythe can receive their fair share of the $675 billion in federal funds and grants each year for the next 10 years. That money is spent on school lunch programs, Title I funds, special education grants, and other vital programs. I also wanted to update Blythe families that the deadline to respond to the census is now September 30th. In addition, census takers will begin to follow up with households that have not yet responded to the 2020 census. I would like to remind everyone of our efforts to raise the self-response rate for Blythe. We will continue to conduct self-response webinars on Tuesdays and office hours on Wednesdays. The purpose of these webinars is to answer questions regarding the 2020 census questionnaire and to have 100% self-response rate in Blythe for this decennial. These webinars are in English and Spanish so we can assist all Blythe residents to complete their census questionnaire. Thank you for continuing to encourage everyone to respond online at 2020census.gov, by mail or by phone at 1-844-330-2020 in English or at 1-844-468-2020 in Spanish. For more information, please contact me anytime via email at juan.p.ramirez@2020census.gov or mobile at 323-940-8724 if you have any questions. Thank you and have a great evening. Juan P. Ramirez. Reports and communications, board member report. Mr. Hernandez?
Yeah, I just want to thank all the staff who went through, especially Superintendent Kern, putting all this stuff on putting all this on the radio to get the information out. And I thought at the beginning of the school year we would have a lot of problems. And me not knowing so much about computers, I depended on my grandson to open it up himself, and there was no issues with that. And I went to other households and learned about their kids opened up their Chrome tablets very easily. So they have the know-how, and the technology was there. I know there were some issues, but I think it went very well considering that we hadn't done it before. And I compare our school with the Beaumont school because my grandkids go to Beaumont Unified, and they started their Chrome tablets last year before all this started. So they were a little bit ahead, but they also had a lot of issues, getting hooked onto the school district. So, I mean, here they did it for several months before they closed down, and they still had the same issues that we had when we started. So, I think the staff did a very good job. They need to patent their back a little bit, and I wish we could offer more, but we can't. I think it was a good start.
Burton?
I want to say you guys, Turner, the cabinet, keep up the good work. Everybody is willing to tackle whatever we face and deal with. Keep watching them numbers, Milton, saving us money. And I don't know if I said it, but I want to welcome Miss April Smith to the cabinet. And thank her for being part of the team. I know she was over there in the trenches, but she's here too, and I know, it's just good to see a good team come together. So,
And I'd like to second what Sunny and Sam said, and as a parent, it's been great. I was able to, peek in the door of all three of my daughters, and was so impressed with what their teachers were doing and how they were guiding them through everything. And so again, thank you to all the staff and teachers and parents for all the hard work to make this work. Ms. Gutierrez? All right, Superintendent's Report?
Last week was our first week of school with teacher-led distance learning. Overall, through the hard work and supportive teamwork from teachers and families, our district had a successful rollout of the online platform. Most students have been able to Zoom live with their teacher and classmates. We appreciate all the dedication of our staff and community in making this happen and supporting student learning. We continue to work on connectivity needs, and we are making progress. In the meantime, each teacher is working with their student to ensure that learning continues. Regarding the student learning schedule, all the students have a learning schedule. They check into the Zoom. They have Zoom line classes. They have take Zoom attendance. But I do want to let you know that there's flexibility in this schedule so that the classes that the teachers conduct Zoom live are recorded. So families have the ability to, at a later time, access that recording and continue to be able to access the teaching and do the activities. And by being involved through the recording, they can still have the ability to be shown to be in attendance with their learning. So there is flexibility for families with learning schedules, so that if they cannot be in front of the computer live with their teacher and classmates, it's all recorded and they can access it a later time. I also want the board to know that the CSBA 2020 conference is still occurring December 3rd through the 4th, but it will be 100% virtual online at this point. And CSBA will offer virtual pre-conference activities from November 30th to December 2nd, all 100% online. Also, currently, Riverside County is on the COVID-19 watch list. I think we all know that. And we are currently at a rate of countywide of 205.8 per 100,000 confirmed COVID ratio community spread. And what this means is in order to be off the watch list, the county must be at 100 per 100,000 for 14 consecutive days. There was a freeze with counties being able to get off the watch list because there was backlog in the data for the state of California. This is now starting to clear through the system, and counties meeting the guidelines then are able now to be lifted off the watch list. But as you know, until we can get off the watch list, in-person learning is not a possibility. And also at this time, our public health officer, the county public health is not accepting any waivers for in-person learning at this time from any districts in the county. And I do want everybody to know that back to school is still happening, this back to school event for our schools. It starts next week, and all the principals are working very hard so that a virtual back to school experience can take place for our students, our staff, and families in our community. So more information will come out to our communities from our principals.
All right, reports of associations. PVTA. Good evening, Superintendent and school board members. I just wanted to welcome everyone back to our new school year. PVTA has been very busy these last few weeks with attending trainings, setting up our classes, and learning the new ways of navigating through this school year. It hasn't been easy. None of us went to school to teach this way. We are, however, taking on the new challenges of distant learning with a positive view, and we are willing to do what it takes to provide the best educational experience for all of our students. Connectivity continues to be our biggest challenge. We hope that this will improve very soon. As we work through the bumps and hiccups, I truly believe that we teachers, as well as our students, will adjust to this new way of learning. As much as I know we would love to go back to our traditional classroom, we do appreciate all that the district is doing to keep us safe, our students safe, and provide the best educational opportunities we can at this time. Thank you, Britt Laredo, PVTA President. Consent items. Items listed under the consent calendar motions are considered to be routine and are acted on by the governing board in one motion. There is no discussion of these items prior to the board vote unless a member of the board requests specific items be discussed and/or removed from the consent agenda. It is understood that administration recommends approval of all consent items. Each item on the consent agenda approved by the governing board shall be deemed to have been considered in full and adopted as recommended. Martha will read the consent items.
Number 2020-21-02. M3, ratification purchase order listing for July 2020. M4, ratification PVHS Associated Student Body Statement, May and June 2020. M5, approval of 2020-2021 agreement with School Services for California Physical Services Support. M6, approval of contract 2020-2021 John K. Maltby, DC, for TB X-ray services. M7, approval for 2020-2021 contract with Desert View Medical Center, Dr. Kenneth G. Lucero, MD. M8, approval modification number 1 for MOU 1208 with Riverside County Office of Education regarding data sharing services. M9, ratification of 2020-2021 service agreement with Mr. Pest Control. M10, ratification of regular school business.
Call for a motion? All in favor? Okay. Any opposed? Action items. N1, readmit case number 18-19-09. Call for a motion? Questions or comments? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? N2, readmit case number 19-20-01. Questions or comments? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? N3, public hearing, pvusd learning continuity and attendance plan. Hearing opened at 6:51. Any comments?
I just want to remind the public that when you look over the plan, if you have any comments or input, you can email me through contactus@pvusd.us. You can email me directly at lschaeffer@pvusd.us, LSHAFFER, or you can call the district office 760-922-4164, and my extension is 1261, and you can leave me a message there. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you, Lois. Hearing closed at 6:52. N4, review and approve budget reserve transparency requirements, 2020-2021, 45-day budget revision. Request a motion to approve as amended. Questions or comments? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? N5, request permission to go out to bid asbestos abatement. For motion? Questions or comments? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? N6, request permission to go out to bid CNG compressor installation and related activities. Questions or comments? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? N7, ratification of 2020-2021 Johnson Control Service Agreement for fire alarm systems. Questions or comments? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? N8, approval of variable term waiver EC 44252B. Call for a motion? Questions or comments? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? N9, approval memorandum of understanding between Palo Verde Unified School District and Palo Verde Teachers Association. Questions or comments? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? N10, approval modification to 2019-2020 Palo Verde Head Start Agreement number C10072238, carryover funds increase. Questions or comments? All in favor? Any opposed? N11, approval of modification to 2019-2020 Palo Verde Head Start Agreement number C10072238, update to contract language. Questions or comments? All in favor? Any opposed? N12, second reading and approval, board policies exhibit recommended for update, May 2020 CSBA policy guide sheet. Questions or comments? All in favor? Any opposed? Discussion information items. Number 1, discussion CNUG Verizon Network Peering District Connectivity.
This forward as a discussion item, one, to kind of let you know where we are with our, what I would consider a short-term connectivity solution to answer our need, and wanting some direction from the board on pursuing possibly a longer-term solution. So currently, PVUSD has partnered with RCOE, the county network user group, And we were able to utilize their Verizon network. It was actually completed by our COE last night, which is good news because we have already worked with Verizon on the hotspots. And so at this point, we today, because the network was completed last night, we're activating the hotspots as we speak with Verizon, getting them configured, and we will be handing them out as soon as that work is done. And I'm hoping that that's as soon as the beginning of next week. So with that being said, then the hotspots will basically be handed out like as a checkout system to our families, much like the Chromebooks. And so when a family has need for connectivity, they don't have connectivity for internet or through cell phone, then we'll be providing the hotspots. Now, that would answer a short-term need for connectivity in our community, but I would also like to contemplate having a longer-term solution for connectivity even past the COVID, teacher-led distance learning model, such as students are having more and more converting to more online curriculum or Google Classroom or Mayan through reading. And when students go home, the teachers do compensate and give hard copy assignments and those things. But in the long run, my recommendation would be that if we can provide connectivity in our community in a cost-effective, sustainable way, that would be my recommendation to pursue that. There's various methods that makes that possible. One is typically you have to go through FCC license, but there's ways that you could partner with people that already have a license or lease with a license. There you can diversify so that each school site essentially could broadcast from the school or through towers already in our community. But so there's various options to move forward for a more long-term sustainable solution. But I wanted to get the direction from the board on if you're interested in us pursuing this direction.
I think we definitely need to look at this because even when, COVID has calmed down and we do get kids back in school, I still think there's going to be the need to provide the distance learning. There will be some families that will not be comfortable with sending their kids back to school yet, and I think we need to provide a better option for connectivity for the future of our students.
Like I said, it's always good to be proactive and not reactive. So.
Yeah, go forward.
Okay.
And look at this as a solution. I'll be bringing that to your attention here in the near future.
Perfect. All right, 02, information, the 2020 board self-evaluation. Sunny had mentioned wanting to do this at our last meeting. So the information is available. There's a sheet. If everybody's got their sheet.
It's very simple. We took it last year, a couple years ago.
Right.
And it takes 10 minutes. The CSBA gets you the results back pretty quickly. And I would like to see after 2 years if the board has improved. We had some issues last evaluation, and hopefully they've been resolved. And I'd like to see if the rest of the board members think the same as I do.
Great, thank you, Sunny. All right, 03, first reading and discussion, board policies exhibits recommended for update July 2020 CSBA policy guide sheet. All right. Any comments? No? All right, other business? Future agenda items? All right. Meeting adjourned. Next regular meeting Tuesday, September 1st.